Where do we begin? I think that's the goal there, to be honest. That hockey was phenomenal. Oh, we're sponsored by, well, a man can dream.
A man can dream,
Wow,
but we're moving on to the second round against the Battle of Alberta. Let's go!
Hey, Bruce, there it is. Bruce, there it was.
St. Louis decided to just blow up completely in the trade deadline.
I wish it wasn't Adam Fox.
It's two juggernauts just colliding with each other. If he doesn't beat Tampa in the first round, he's out of a job.
Isn't that weird? Boom, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back.
Woo!
To the Puck and Stuff Podcast. Today, I'm joined by B-Dog. How are you today, buddy?
I'm doing great over here, T-Dog. We have a lot more free agency talk to get into. Every time there's new news before. I literally just posted an episode today. But hey, guys, welcome back to the Puck and Stuff Podcast. Welcome back to CHEL Offseason Talk. And T-Dog, how are we doing today? What we got?
Doing pretty good. And you know what? Today was pretty nice to get a little bit more news, so we have more to talk about. But you're right. Every single darn time we make an episode, edit it, record it, or whatever, finish it, something else happens. But it's good because more content for the next one. But that's why we have so much NHL offseason talk. But don't worry, soon enough, we'll have a more variety of content coming out after this episode. But hey, before we get into this, our episode today is sponsored by, well,
Nothing's under there.
A man can dream.
A man can dream.
That Fanatics can start making quality jerseys. I got a San Jose Sharks Fanatics jersey on. It's a nice jersey. Just Fanatics. Why your quality so bad? I pay almost the same price for an Adidas Authentic and get terrible quality.
Well, I guess since Fanatics now is the makers of NHL jerseys and Adidas is out, hopefully their quality gets better, or even the NHL players might start complaining about it.
But let's get into some signings. How about that, buddy? Hey?
Oh, I'd love to hear it. Let's get off.
Our first one will be that the Minnesota Wild have re-signed goaltender 25-year-old Filip Gustavsson on a 3-year deal worth $3.75 million per year. What do you gotta say about this one, B-Dog?
Dude, when we looked at this goalie in Ottawa, he wasn't really much. He didn't show a great performance in Ottawa. And then he got traded in a package with Cam Talbot to the Minnesota Wild. And he performed pretty freaking well. He played 39 games, had a goals against average of 2.010, and had a save percentage of 931. That is very impressive, just coming off of a bad season from Ottawa. And again, he's young. This is a really good sign for him on his young side to be showing this kind of game in the NHL. Even if you looked into the playoffs with him, he outplayed Fleury for the starting role in the round 1 against Dallas. Sadly, they lost, but he ended that playoff run with a goals against average of 2.33 and a save percentage of 921. That is very impressive, especially where it's like his first true playoff run with a team. So honestly, after a performance like that, no brainer that Minnesota needed to sign him here, especially where they really didn't have much after Fleury for goaltending. So I got to give it a thumbs up for the signing. This was very smart, and it was very obvious by Minnesota.
I agree. It seems that Gustavsson needed a change of scenery, and getting that change of scenery with the opportunity that was, given to him after a little bit of a struggle with Fleury there. And I do think age is catching up with Fleury, unfortunately.
Damn, that hurts.
Give some I know, right? But it gives some opportunity to Gustavsson, and he did not disappoint this season. He looked caliber. He looked. They found their goalie is pretty much what I'm saying, and that 3.75 may be a steal if he keeps playing consistently like this. Now, this could just be one of those seasons where, it was a really good season, might have a slump the next season. Sometimes it happens with, new contracts. But it seems like Minnesota might be in good hands, and Gustavsson seems like a pretty confident goalie, as well to a younger goalie too. So you have him for, till he's going to be 28, 29, whenever his birthday is there. And yeah, good signing for Minnesota. I think that was a really awesome bright spot for Minnesota. And we'll move on to the next one. Okay, Boston. Wish they didn't sign this guy, because if we're going to send Lindholm over here, I was hoping we get him for a package. But Trent Frederick, a 25-year-old as well, he's getting signed to a 2-year deal, one way, worth $2.3 million per season. This signing is a solid in the sense that Trent Frederick is just a gritty guy. Not an enforcer for say, because enforcers are in the league no more, but he's a power forward for say. And, he gets in the dirty ends, and that's what you like. A typical I guess in the stereotype of Boston hockey players, I would expect him to be on the Bruins, right? I just like the way he plays the game. I like his style. I think he's a solid fourth liner. Maybe a little pricier for being on the bottom six for say in that sense, but I think what he brings to the table is what you kind of need to be a competitive team. So I think that's why you pay him the money that you do. I think it's a decent signing. Good for Boston. What do you think, man?
I mean, since we have obviously talked about Boston a few times on here, we've noticed that Boston's kind of having that collapse, because we just recently talked about in the last episode that Patrice Bergeron have retired, and they're looking a little thin in the center depth right now. So that's kind of scary. Maybe they want to come grab Elias Lindholm. It's still a possibility. But if we're talking about Frederick here, obviously, yeah, he is that basic power forward depth player that Boston has. He's been there since their Stanley Cup final run in 2019, the 2018-19 season where St. Louis won, sadly enough. Actually, not sadly enough. We wanted St. Louis to win that one.
They deserved it. Yeah,
they really did after that season. But if we're going into the future here and looking at this season, he played 79 games and was able to put up 31 points with a plus minus of 28. He had actually he had a little bit of penalty minutes with 57. I got to say, that's pretty power forward. It's not enforcer like, it's power forward like. So yeah, you do make a good point with the power forward. Again, you're starting to see at his young age, he's starting to evolve his game a little bit and actually put the puck in the net with 17 goals and 14 assists. That's still pretty good for a power forward at his age. Again, if we're talking about a jump, it's from 18 points last year to 37. So it is a big jump in production for sure. And I think Boston just kind of needed this little win because it's a cheap contract and he still has the time to really grow his game even more in Boston. And I think Boston just needs that win for once this offseason. So good signing.
Yeah, at least someone's staying there for sure, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But again, it would be a piece I'd like in a Lindholm trade.
True.
So for me, that's like, I wouldn't mind that. We'll see what happens. All I know is that Boston has more things to do with, and I guess we can kind of move on with Boston and their signings. So Jeremy Swayman, their other goaltender aside from Linus Ullmark, he went through arbitration filing with the team, and the arbitration filing settled for, it was a 1-year deal worth $3.475 million. So you're paying almost $3.5 million for a 1B situation. Now, Swayman at some point struggled in the season. I think some points he had an okay start, but at the end of the day, it was Ullmark's season. It was Ullmark's season, right?
Yeah.
And that's all you can say about it. So maybe that feels a little much in the sense that, Ullmark's going to be your go-to ride or die. It's not much of a 1A, 1B situation anymore, especially after last season, I'd say. So maybe a little much, but Swayman is a great is in the sense of a backup position. That is a great place to have in the sense that Boston has 2 goalies. One gets injured. Oh, you have someone to come up. So we'll see. I mean, in the sense of probably going to be a backup position, maybe a little much, but it's not like you have that. I don't know. Boston's in this weird cap situation anyways, so I guess this is how it's going to go. I don't have much for words, I'll be honest with this one. And I wonder if it's just because I know that Ullmark is the way to go, and so maybe I feel there's not as much importance to put on for Swayman. But that could just be me not being a Boston fan. So you Boston fans in the comments, let me know if I'm just being delusional here. But B-Dog, I want to hear your thoughts on the signing of their well, I guess their backup goalie.
Okay, if we're looking at Swayman here, yeah, basically he's going to be the backup for a little bit. Ullmark with this historic season this year, and I think with Boston's situation here is you don't really want to give up a young goaltender like Swayman here, because eventually Ullmark is 30. Eventually there will be a time where he is either traded or I think it just goes downhill and then they switch potentially. Because Allmark isn't really on a crazy heavy contract either, if you really think about it. Like, yes, I believe it is $5 million for sure, but it's not too bad to be able to have that second goalie. Even if we look at Swayman's stats here, he basically played the last 3 years in Boston. Before this season, he played 41 games, had a goals against average of 2.41 and a save percentage of 914. Still very impressive in the sense of goaltending stats. And then he even improved this year by playing 37 games, had a goals against average of 2.27 and a save percentage of 920. So that is much improvement in his stats wise. But again, right now he is a backup. And I think eventually Boston will want to make the switch over to Swayman as the starter. But I think they just didn't want to risk losing a goaltender like that, especially with, yes, there is Ullmark. He's 30 and he could potentially be a starter for Boston for the next few years. But again, it's nice to have that backup in hand because you never know what could happen with injuries. Maybe this game declines, like a lot could happen. So I understand Boston's logic of signing him.
Okay, so I guess we'll just move on here to more signings. The next one on my list is Ryan McLeod of the Edmonton Oilers signing a deal which is going for a 2-year deal worth $2.1 million per year. I'll pull up some stats here. So last season with the Oilers, he played 57 games, 11 goals, 12 assists for 23 points, and was a +4 with the season. Now, in that sense, spanning that over an 82-game season, definitely would probably hit almost the 40-point mark. So what you're paying there, how I see this contract to me is like the perfect amount of money. Anything more maybe would have been a little too much in the sense that I still think that he has something to prove to the Oilers organization of what he can become. But in his position, he could become a solid player. And we've seen flashes and glimpses of McLeod. So hopefully, and this would be this would be the best season, is this upcoming season for him to break out, per se. Because man, would that help Edmonton, especially since they need to figure things out in the sense that they might not have a full 22-man roster because they got to sign Evan Bouchard.
Oh, yes, they did.
Problems, right? And so it works out in the sense that McLeod gets paid this money because, well, it leaves a little money leaves a little cap room to sign Bouchard. He even said, and I think his interview after signing, that he said he left a little bit on the table too. I think it works out though, because I believe that I think this is kind of like what he is. I don't think any more would have been a little too much in my opinion, but there's a lot of opportunity here. And I think that McLeod is a solid bottom six player. And I think that as he progresses and with his career and the older he gets, he'll get better. And I think he'll score more. And I think the scoring touch will just slowly but surely increase.
Oh, I hate to say it, but I actually do have to agree. And I think Edmonton's looking on the right side up here, especially with this signing, because I hate to say it, but Edmonton's looking like one of the deadliest teams coming out of the West this year for sure. And I think this was a really good signing for Edmonton because Ryan McLeod, again, at the age of 23, has shown a lot on the ice for sure with Edmonton, and his production is it's slowly growing, but again, he's still pretty young, so it'll take some time. Just like you said, 57 games, 23 points. And like just the year before, he played 71 games and had 21 points. So obviously, if he just finished off the rest of the season, you're right, it could have been potentially a 40-point season. So I think this is really nice for Edmonton because you signed a young talent that is paid under $4 million and it's cheap and you got more depth. So you can't really hurt with that. And especially when you have Evan Bouchard to sign as well. And that changes a lot because I totally forgot they had signed him too. So it's really nice that they left a little bit of cap space so they can try signing on their players. But yeah, I think this is a good signing. It's nice. It's really nice because if you look at that center core that Edmonton has, McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, McLeod. That's already a deadly 3-line centerman. So I got to give it a thumbs up, sadly.
Yep.
Well, that hurt to do.
Well, I guess we can even talk about this as well. Some more Oilers news. Front office wise, they have a new CEO, president of hockey operations, Jeff Jackson, who, funny enough, was Connor McDavid's agent, among other players. This hiring is been given a very positive thumbs up by Connor McDavid, as him giving a written response on his Instagram. And I mean, if anything helps McDavid stay after his contract ends in the next 3 years, they'll do anything. What do you think about this one? You know, this is crazy because Bob Nicholson was hockey ops for a while. And so him stepping out, there could be a lot of changes to this front office in Edmonton, and it could start with this and be a new era for say. Because as well, too, Ken Holland, his contract is up next season. So he could be gone too. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. But I just want to, what do you think? It's kind of crazy, kind of a weird, very Kent Hughes-esque thing where you have some player on the team, their agent is now in upper echelons of your organization. It's kind of crazy how that all works out, hey?
God damn, Edmonton. You are willing to... You got some balls, all right, Edmonton. You put your Stars former agent as your CEO just to keep... They're desperate to keep McDavid in Edmonton. They don't want a Gretzky situation here.
No. Well, here's the thing. I don't think Daryl Cates is the type of owner to be like a Peter Pocklington and sold the team because he's in debt and, repay the dues that he has. I think Cates actually enjoys owning that team. Unlike please sell the team, Murray Edwards. Please, dude, come on, man. Just sell the team. Just that. I'm just gonna say, just sell the team. Okay, sorry, I just had a flare up there in traffic. Let me go back to Edmonton here. But I think he enjoys it. I don't know if that'll happen. But yeah, I think they're gonna take as many precautions necessary to keep the greatest player in the league as of now to stay as long as his career lasts, I'd say.
Well, I think that definitely starts on how this season will go with Edmonton, because again, I think what will really make McDavid leave is no playoff success, realistically. But again, we're going a little bit off traffic here, and we're going back into the left lane here, going in the speed lane, and we're going back to Jeff Jackson as the CEO of the Edmonton Oilers. Now, that's kind of... I wasn't expecting that because, I don't really know his background that well. We know him as Evan Bouchard's and Connor McDavid's former agents. I don't know if he actually went through the work to be able to... I don't know what to say to this because it's just... It's very rare to hear an agent of a former player to, do this. You don't usually hear this out of hockey operations, for sure, but... I mean, I guess Edmonton, you're that desperate to try keeping your best player and one of the best players in the league right now. So I kind of get it. Well, boys, we got some more signings here to go through, and arbitration. We got another arbitration here, and we got a signing as well from Troy Terry getting paid 7 years for $7 million with the Anaheim Ducks. Wow, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money, a lot of years.
Baby. It's an American dollar too, man.
Yeah, American dollar. No, but at 25 years old, he did prove a lot this season. I do got to admit that for sure, especially the last two seasons, over 60-point seasons in the last 2 years. So that's very impressive. T-Dog, I would love to hear your thoughts on what you think of this contract.
Yeah, so I'll be honest. I think he was asking for, I want to say $8.5 million if my mind isn't messing with me. A little much, in my opinion. However, that $7 million range actually, I believe, will look better, of course, next season, one, with the cap increasing, two, as he progresses. Still at an earlier age in his career, so there's more room for improvement, and I still think that he is a solid player to, be an addition to adding around that kind of Zegras, Drysdale, Karlsson. Karlsson. Jeez Louise, I keep thinking Fantilli went to the Ducks. It's weird.
Everyone did.
I know, it's just weird how that works. Anyways, but that kind of group, for say, right? And so 60 points. Yeah, I mean that's the type of player you want to be either in your second or your third line. And yeah, I think Terry has a lot more, has more to prove for say. Yeah, a great point production increase. You know, that 2021 season probably would have 45 points maybe if there was a full season there. But that's the thing too. Let's look at that actually. The seasons where he had his points increase and actually had significant impact with the team when they were full seasons. So that says a lot. So that's great to see. And I could see him. I could see him hitting that 60-point range again. Heck, I actually could see him breaking the 70 point. I bet you he'll probably hit 80 points at least once in his career. And I do think that'll be during a time when the Ducks become a little more collectively better.
Well, whatever you do, just get rid of that stupid duck foot logo if you decide to do this right.
Yeah, they need to bring back the old one, man. Bring back the Solani.
No, Disney has the rights to that logo. We can't do anything about it. They can't do anything. Right, well, I mean, okay, they technically can do something about it, but we want the iconic logo and we're never going to get it. But honestly, with Troy Terry here, did I think it was a bit much, especially when we first heard about this contract? When you mentioned it was like over 8 mil, and I saw that too, I was like, no way Anaheim's going to do this, right? So I think they really got lucky getting him the 7x7. I think this was a smart move. Yeah, again, over 60-point seasons in the last 2 years. So that's very impressive, especially where in 2020-21 season, he played 48 games, put up 20 points. But again, that was a weird year. That was a very weird year. So I think this is actually really good to see a player like this put up that number of points for sure, especially at 25 years old. So he's still when he's in that prime, you might be right. He's about to hit 80 points for sure. And I really think Anaheim's like fully set here after a rebuild. I think now it's the little retooling and wait for those players to develop, because you mentioned Zegras, you mentioned Terry, you mentioned, I keep forgetting. Drysdale, Mason McTavish.
Yeah, you're right, for sure.
I think their pieces are set now. But now they just have to wait for them to grow.
Okay, we move on here to another signing. Rasmus Kupari, who was a part of that absolute flea steal by Kevin Cheveldayoff and the Winnipeg Jets. And he's going to get signed here, a 2-year deal worth $1 million per year. Now, you look at his stats here, up and down from the minors to the big leagues, but Kupari did play somewhat of a role with the Kings in some of their playoff tenures, for saying. So this season, with the Kings, he played 66 games, 3 goals, 12 assists, 15 points, -5 with the penalty minutes of +12. But then in the AHL, 9 points in 11 games, and it was a +3. So, nothing too crazy in the stat wise, but he is 23 years old. And the thing that's nice about this is young. And that is why I enjoy that Winnipeg trade so much for Winnipeg, is because of how young these players they're getting, but there's so much potential that has yet to be tapped in. So let's see if a change of scenery helps Kupari. And Kupari will get more of a role with Winnipeg and more ice time, just because, Winnipeg is in that little struggling sense in comparison to LA, I'd say, right? So that might help him a lot. So it's not a bad deal. 1 year million as well. 1 year million. 1 million per year. There's not much risk to it. So I do think it's a win-win scenario for both sides of this deal here.
Yeah, I think I got to agree with you in this, because you did get him from that LA trade. And in LA, he did, like you said, have his ups and downs. Like you said, the actual NHL season, he played full 66. Well, not full, but he played 66 games and did put up those 15 points, like you said. And it was his first trial run realistically at the NHL. It wasn't too bad. But again, it wasn't enough for what LA wanted, because again, LA's in that playoff push now because they think they're competitive with Pierre-Luc Dubois. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. But yeah, then he got sent to the AHL. And then, like you said, 11 games played, 9 points. It's still, he's showing that very potential that he has, but he just couldn't get it with LA. So now he gets moved to Winnipeg. And now he has a way better chance of getting into the lineup and showing what he can do. And maybe, yeah, like the change of scenery, like we always mention with some of these players, could change a lot because, I mean, change of scenery from LA hot sun to Manitoba. It's not a great change of
Manitoba.
scenery, but it's a change of scenery.
Oh, maybe, yeah, in that sense. But you know what? He's from Finland, so I think he's used to the cold weather, right?
I
So
mean, yeah, that might be the saving grace because he's like, oh, I'm up in Canada. It's a little bit cold, but nothing like home. So,
you know what? Let's move right on.
Yeah.
Move right on to Tom Wilson.
Woo, Tom Wilson.
Capitals. Man, they do be re-signing Mr. Tom Wilson here. A 7-year deal worth $6.5 million per season. B-Dog, because you got the jersey in the back, I need you to give us your opinion right now.
All right, with Tom Wilson. So if we're looking at realistic grinders and enforcers that are still in the league today, Tom Wilson is still technically one of those guys. He's a power forward realistically, but some of us will say he still has the enforcer way. So I got to give a lot of respect to his physical game for sure on the ice, but he's not too bad at the points because so if we look at last year, he played 78 games and was able to put up 52 points with a plus minus of 13. So he still is productive when he has the puck on his stick for sure. And he does show that with his time with Washington. This year, he had a little bit of I believe, an injury problem and he played 33 games and he still put up 22 points with a plus minus of minus 13. So I would still say that's pretty good for 33 games. And the contract, is it a little bit steep? It's pushing that line of that's a bit steep because Tom Wilson is still Tom Wilson, but he's only going down from here technically. So is it a little bit high risk, high reward? And yes, and I get why Washington wants to do it because they want to stay as competitive as they can with Ovechkin there. So I think it's a steep signing. Tom Wilson is a great player, but for what time Washington realistically has left, it's a risky it's a risky signing. It really is.
For sure. So with this signing, I think to me, and do you agree with this? I think it confirms that they're really just making sure that they stay somewhat relevant up until Ovi passes Mr. Gretzky in the goals record and he retires.
Yeah,
like they're not even giving a single heck about some sort of retool. They're going to worry about that later because this is Ovechkin's time to shine.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's going to affect them. You know, like when he does pass Gretzky's goal record, you know, it's going to be amazing. We're all going to celebrate, but once he retires, there could be some dark years for Washington. Very, very true. You know, this signing though, to me, it is, and you mentioned it, it's the injuries and the age that to me worries me. I think he could possibly get to a 50-point season again. I think he'll hit more like 40. But you know, any team would want a player like Tom Wilson. Let's be real here, man.
Sure. That is very true.
Right, like he elevates your game, especially in the playoffs. He's a big reason why they won that cup in 2018. I know that's 5 years ago, but still, that success in relevancy with how the Caps have a lot of that, some of that team still there, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the 6.5 to 7 years is steep, and once that 7 years is up, man, it's a lot of money you're paying for a guy who's, you know, pretty much in retirement age in the sense. So there's stuff to say about that. However, you know, if it's making Ovi happy, it makes Ovi happy, and that's probably the biggest reason to it. I want to switch over to the Philadelphia Flyers and them re-signing their goaltender, Samuel Ersson. I'll get into why I want to talk about this one, but he did get signed for a 2-year deal with $1.45 million. Sorry, dude, I don't got the stats up if you want to pull them up, but I do want to say this with Samuel Ersson because I think it's a great discussion talk. Because there's a few goalies in their system now. You have Samuel Ersson, who we are just talking about. You also, of course, have Cal Peterson, who you just gotten through a trade. You have Felix Sandstrom, and then, of course, Mr. Catahat. So, 3 to 4 goalies in there going through rotation. 3 of them are getting paid as if they are going to be in the league. Ersson, for sure. I think this confirms that Ersson can be a backup or will be their backup.
Yeah.
Now, I was watching the hockey guy. Shout out to him. He was mentioning how it's similar in the sense of how Carolina's doing it, where they're paying Kochekov, I think about $2 million, meaning that they have three goalies right now in the system. So maybe they slipped through it. I want to know what you think, because I think as well too, we heard a little bit of cat a hat discussion where maybe there's him being sent off. So does that mean something there? Like, I don't know. What do you think? Because I think that this Philadelphia goalie tandem discussion is intriguing.
Yeah, I think this is actually getting more intriguing in Philadelphia with their management for sure officially rebuilding. And there's a lot of questions here because we start off with Samuel Ersson, and he played, so last season he played 12 games in the AHL with Philly. He had a goals against average of 3.07 with a save percentage of under 900. So it wasn't pretty for sure, but then he got sent down to the AHL. He played 42 games and was able to put a goals against average of 2.84 and a save percentage of exactly 900. So there, what the AHL NHL difference for sure is there a little bit. He does need a little bit of time. He maybe could make the jump to back up this year, like you were saying. But again, it's a young goaltender in a young system. So it looks really good for Philadelphia in their goaltending situation. But like we said, this changes a lot for what they might do with Carter Hart here. Because again, there was those talks of, oh, he's becoming an RFA next year, and he probably doesn't want to be in Philly for next year. So there's a lot of talk with him potentially leaving. And there was a few trade rumors as well already. So is this confirming it? Maybe. But again, we haven't heard anything about Carter Hart in the last few weeks here. So like we were already skeptical since Kyle Peterson went to Philly. So maybe this is just the conversation of Carter Hart might leave soon. So we'll have to see.
And I forgot to mention too, that deal for Ersson is one way. So it's either, be on the squad or be scratched. So
Damn.
Yeah, I wonder so you have three now in that spot. So that might be something. I mean, it's nice to have a goalie rotation like that. And Philadelphia's got the money, I don't think they care too much. But they have options, and I think that having options is really nice, especially for a team who, they're basement dwellers, they need to just wait. Let the team grow up and wait for Mishkov to come in and become the next Datsuk, right? Or whatever. But
yeah.
So we'll see. But what do you guys think in the comments below there? What's going to happen with the Philly goaltending tandem? To me, that's a pretty intriguing scenario because, hey, a Kataha could go somewhere and pop off. We'll see what happens. But good signing anyways. Ersson has a lot of potential, and it might look even better by next season. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
You ready to move on, good sir?
Yes, I am.
All right, okay, one more signing, and then we'll go into some Penguins talk. But, okay, so this last signing, Matt Dumba, going to the Arizona Coyotes on a one-year deal worth $3.9 million. I want to hear your thoughts on this one. He did struggle this season, but you know what? Of course, he's known to be solid in the position that he plays. So maybe a little bit of maybe that change of scenery, like we say all the time, helps him out.
Well, it's kind of interesting too, because he spent his career in Minnesota, and last year he played 79 games and only was able to put up 14 points with a plus minus of -8. So again, it wasn't a pretty season. Oh my God. He also put up, I think, a career high in penalty minutes with 81. Holy shit. Okay, I just realized that. I was looking at that.
That's crazy, man.
That is pretty crazy. But again, so he is 29 years old. He's about to hit 30. I was kind of shocked a little bit that he didn't go back to Minnesota, especially on such a low cap hit, especially like under $4 million. That's kind of shocking for sure. But at the same time, if we're looking at it, Arizona does kind of need the defensive help because they finally got rid of Jacob Chikrin in the trade deadline, and he's on Ottawa now. So I think adding a big right winger, he's kind of going into a veteran role here a little bit too with Arizona because they're looking at a very young team here. So yeah, I guess the defensive help wouldn't hurt Arizona, especially when they're trying to like maybe compete. I don't know what Arizona's really doing. They're still rebuilding after 10 years, but yeah, I think honestly, Matt Dumba, interesting choice going to Arizona. It's a low cap hit, like we said, and maybe he gets that bounce back year for sure. But I think I would have preferred him staying in Minnesota. They were still looking like a good contending team, but I guess they couldn't sign him back, I guess.
Yeah, I do think there was a change of scenery that needed to happen anyways. Like, I think Dumba's time with that team kind of ran out. And I also think there's that potential that Dumba, could play those top minutes for, say, and especially with a team like Arizona, he'll be able to play some of those top minutes, play a more important role. It's a right defenseman too, right? So that's in high demand. I gotta say though, I mean, Arizona looks a little better.
They really do.
They do? Like, okay, so let's talk about this crazy signing that happened today. Erik Karlsson goes to the Pittsburgh Penguins, as well as Dylan Hamelic. San Jose, they acquire Mikael Granlund, Jan Ruda, and a 2024 first-round pick, which is top 10 protected conditional, as well too. Let's talk about that third party in the team, Montreal. So Montreal gives San Jose Mike Hoffman, and they give the Pittsburgh Penguins Rem Pitlick. Who does the Penguins or who does the Canadians get, you ask? Well, they get Jeff Petrie, 25% retained, Nathan Leger, an AHLer, a 2025 second-round pick, and goaltender Casey DeSmith. Whew, that's a lot.
Good job.
A lot to unfold. We can kind of go into depth with this. Brent, B-Dog, I want to hear your thoughts on this. One, give me your thoughts on Erik Karlsson and how he'll help Pittsburgh, and then who won this trade. I mean, it's there's a lot to digest.
I'm not gonna lie, there is a lot to digest here, because I think if you're looking at it, the true winner is the Pittsburgh Penguins. They got the best player out of it. They actually, realistically, they did give up a lot. Like, they didn't give up crazy much for Erik Karlsson, especially coming off a 100-point season. But I think it was still the right amount that I think San Jose wanted, because, again, you're looking at Pittsburgh completely differently now, because you got Chris Letang and Erik Karlsson as a defensive duo. That is deadly. That is very deadly, because you got Chris Letang, who could play a two-way very well, and Erik Karlsson is a very offensive player, and I think Pittsburgh really needed that on the D-line. I wasn't expecting him to go to Pittsburgh until at least you were saying there's rumors. So I think that was kind of interesting that he went there. I think San Jose, I wasn't expecting them to kind of get Mike Hoffman and Galland in this trade, but again, they got the first round pick that I think you are happy with no matter what. It's top 10 protected. It's kind of interesting now to see those conditions in the NHL, because I usually think of that as a NBA thing. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting to see that kind of protection now onto picks in those conditions. So it's very interesting now. And we look at Montreal. They were kind of the banker of this whole three-way deal, and they got a little bit more help. But again, they got the second out of it. So I guess it wouldn't hurt them as bad, but I think the true winner here, it's Pittsburgh. You know what Pittsburgh's trying to do here instantly. They need to get Crosby and Malkin another cup. So simple as that. If you really look at Pittsburgh now, their forwards look absolute filthy. I think their defense, of course, is looking kind of insane right now, because they did sign Ryan Graves as well, and as a defensive piece. And Tristan Jarry signed long-term. And I think, honestly, this whole team looking scary for Pittsburgh next year, for sure. They might actually contend pretty well on Metropolitan.
Funny enough, them getting Erik Karlsson, they actually got younger. Every player that they took away with Karlsson is, well, maybe not DeSmith per se, but the other players that they let go of, Mikael Granlund and Jan Ruda. Yeah. So that is something to say, but I'm going to agree with you. I've been thinking about this whole day of this trade. Right now, it is the best player makes your team win the trade. And yeah, Karlsson does. I mean, what Karlsson can do is just outstanding, and the fact that he might play with Letang, that's just two absolute beasts. I mean, it's hard to say Hall of Famer for Karlsson, but Letang probably has, of course, that Hall of Fame possibility. But superstar elite ability there. I mean, you get him for $10 million too. So they made it work, right? That was the big problem, was the cap space, and they made it work. Now, Rem Pitlick as well, I think, is a solid depth player. Out of all the Pitlicks, it seemed like Rem Pitlick, the season prior to this season had a lot of hype around him per se and potential, and not so much this season, but maybe again that change of scenery helps him as well. $1.1 million, not big of a deal for say. So Pittsburgh, yeah, you're competing. You're competing up until Crosby and Mel can hang up the skates, and that might be in 2 seasons from now, maybe a little more, but we'll see what happens. I do find it funny that Karlsson gets paid more than Crosby. I think that's funny how that works, right?
That is pretty funny.
But hey, that's way of the world, man. Way of the sport.
Yeah, pretty much. But hey, guys, I think this is all the news we got for now, because when this episode will come out, we'll have to do another just like that, because there's always more news. We love to see it. We love that we're getting content, and we love you guys. Thank you guys for all the support. If you did like this, leave a like, leave a comment, and please subscribe. 275 on YouTube. We just hit 1,200 followers on TikTok. So thank you guys for all the support that you're giving. And T-Dog, wrap this up.
Alrighty, well, like B-Dog said, thank you very much for listening, watching, however you are consuming this content. If you did like it, smash that thumbs up button, leave a comment down below, as well, too, question of the day, best sounding out of this talk, and as well, too, what do you think about that Karlsson trade? Who wins, who loses, who did neutral, whatever. Anyways, guys, yeah, we'll be back to talk about the Lindholm trade to Boston, because that's my guess.
Yeah.
And hey, guys, keep on rocking in the free world, like Nardwar said, and, just keep on talking about hockey until it's back. 2 more months, guys. 2 more months. Almost there.
Almost there.
Till the next time, guys, take care of yourselves, drink a lot of water, keep hydrated, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.